Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to go over what I believe are the top 5 loadouts in Warzone, and I will go over attachments for Big Map and attachments for Resurgence, because there's only like a slight variance on my builds for both of them. And then I also have two classes built that are honorable mentions. You can mix and match the guns in each class. Nothing is like set in stone. Be like, oh, these two weapons are the best ever. No, I have them set up, and I'm kind of going by that. So, without further ado, let's get into the loadouts here. So the first loadout is going to be the ISO Hemlock, which is the absolute meta, and because it kills fast at range, it kills pretty fast up close, has zero recoil, it's easy to use, and all that other fun stuff. So this is my personal build. I play solos and duos for the most part. I don't really play in larger squad sizes most of the time. I don't like it personally. Solos is more fun. There's more. I feel like it's more tactical because, I don't have to depend on somebody else to do things for me. So this is the build. It's got a slow enough fire rate and it hits hard enough that I do believe that 30 rounds is enough for solos and duos for me personally. Um, However, my play style is a mixture of aggressive and passive, like more slow moving strategical play, more leaning towards the passive side. So that's the reason that I'm okay with the 30 rounds, because I'm not rushing everybody and, using all my bullets and chasing every fight down that I could. I try to go for like a mixture of a decent amount of kills and go for the win. That's usually the game plan when I hop in. So this is the build for that. If you want the 45 round mag, go ahead and drop the stock for it. The rest of it's kind of set in stone. So without further ado, we'll get into the tunings here. So if you want to use the stock, these are the tunings for that. We tune for idle stability and aim down sight speed, just to make it a little snappier. And without that 45 round mag, it is a little snappier. Um, so this aiming stability is really important for long range, because that's what's going to help your gun not sway as much. So we're going to make sure we maximize that. And then I use this particular optic because I like it. It has actual zoom to it and no visual recoil whatsoever. So we're tuning it for flinch resistance, especially after the nerf to pretty much every category of weapon as far as flinch is concerned. And then we tune the furthest eye position for even less visual recoil. Then we got the Fielder T50 barrel, gives us damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control. The hip fire accuracy is not really important. We tune for the damage range and the recoil steadiness. And the bonuses that this barrel gives is absolutely insane, even if it does slow you down quite a bit, which isn't really all that important, honestly. Same thing with the Harbinger D20. This is the best overall silencer. It gives you the best bonuses. You get like 14.4% damage range, 30% bullet velocity, and about 3.5% vertical and horizontal recoil control, as well as visual recoil control for both of those as well. We tune for recoil smoothness and aiming idle stability on them. It does, again, hurt your ADS. This is a long range gun. You're not going to be aiming down sights fast and being snappy anyway, so that's what we got there. And then we have the F-Tac Ripper. This is really good for that aiming idle stability as well, and it does help with recoil control a little bit. And according to Tony on TGD, and I reference him a lot in my videos, and you'll see that I tag his website and sim.gg in the comments in most of my videos. There's no way to really quantify recoil stabilization. Just that it makes the gun less jumpy. I forget how he explained it, but he said that there's no real way to quantify recoil stabilization, but the Ripper does offer recoil control, and it's like 4% or something like that. But the aiming idle stability, as far as how much gun sway, it decreases it by like 80% or something like that, which is crazy good. So we tune that for recoil stabilization and aiming idle stability, so we go both directions and increase it even further. And that's the build for our ISO. Once again, if you want the 45 round mag, just go ahead and drop the stock. Next, we have the Vasnav, or the PP-19, and this is built to be a jack of all trades. Once again, you'll see I don't have the 45 round mag on here, just a 30. This is built to be snappy, and it's also built to have better range. It does have a pretty significant damage drop off at the first damage drop off. So like it's pretty bad. You go from killing in like 500 and I think it's like 37 milliseconds or something like that. You go from there to like 700 something milliseconds, which is still pretty decent. Don't get me wrong, but eh, you're not it's not that great. Like obviously you want to stay within your gun's range, know which one to use, but with the Cas one barrel, we're extending out that damage range by I think like 20% or something like that. And then this build is really snappy. At the end of the video, after I give you all the tunings, I'll go into each one and I'll kind of show you what they're capable of at the different ranges. I haven't played yet. I just got home from work and I wanted to make this video for you guys, so I apologize in advance if my shot isn't the greatest. So let's get into the builds, and then I'll give you a couple of extra tips. This one works for both maps. So doesn't the ISO build. That's for both maps. This is also for both maps. Remember, solos, duos. If you want to have the bigger magazine, just drop the shark fin and go to the 45 round. So we'll go to the True Tac grip and for sprint to fire and aim down sight, and we tune to increase those further. The Ultrazat stock has the only thing it penalizes you in is aiming stability, which at close range fights is not important whatsoever. So there's basically no cons to running this, and it increases your aim walking speed and your sprint speed, and then you can tune it to increase your aim down sight. And then I further tune for aim walking speed so we can get, you're, pushing the building, open the doors quietly, and then you're essentially, um, you're walking. You're not even like aim walking. The speed at which you aim walk with this build is crazy. Then we have the FSS OLV laser, and we tune for sprint to fire and aim down sight to further increase those. And then for the shark fin, that's the only thing really that we have recoil stabilization on, and then we go for aim walking speed. And then for the Cas M barrel, oh, I lied. We tune for aim down sight speed and aim walk movement speed. And this gun is just incredible. I love it. It feels better to me than the MP5, even though the MP5 is technically better. This one feels better. I don't know what it is about it. It just does. So that's the first one, and then I use smokes and Molotovs. If I'm playing duos with my buddy, I'll switch this out for drill charges for big map, and then double time resupply high alert. If you're running a loadout that has an LMG, I'd recommend fast hands over restock, just because obviously LMGs reload incredibly slow. So that'll be that. So speaking of LMGs, the Sokin MG38 or the Negev 7 is what it's known as in real life, and I like to talk about that. So this is a build that I use. It's similar to Iceman Isaacs, if I remember correctly, aside from the sight, because this is the sight that I like to use on my long range guns. Flinch resistance, farthest eye position, and then we want to increase to make it a little bit more mobile. I put the FSS OLV laser on it, and we tune for aim down sight and sprint to fire. And then F-Tac Ripper, recoil stabilization, aiming stability, making it very steady at range. The bore F490 gives us the best, I think it's the best horizontal and vertical recoil control. Like if you're like going for like an average between both because you want both, it gives you like the best of both worlds. So recoil stabilization, gun kick control, and then the Bruin Silver Series barrel. Now because this has pretty good damage range as it is, and we're already getting a big significant boost from this barrel, I actually tune it for aim down sight speed and recoil steadiness instead of the damage range and recoil steadiness. So that's that build. And then next is the MP5. This one I do run the 40 round mag because um, the fire rate is a bit faster than the Vasnav. So definitely the 40 round. I mean, theoretically, you could, if you play a little bit slower, you could get away with the 30 round mag in solos, and at that point, you just throw like the rear grip on this one, and you just tune it for aim down sight and sprint to fire speed. But then we have the FSS shark fin, which we tune for aiming idle stability and aim down sight speed. I don't know why I did that. It's actually supposed to be this way. We'll go right there. Okay. Then we have the X10 RR40. This gives us a big bonus to bullet velocity and damage range, and minimal detriment to our aim down sight speed, which is what makes this build particularly very snappy. And we tune for better aim down sight speed and better bullet velocity. Next is the L38 Falcon, which we tune for recoil steadiness just to give a little bit more consistency and aim down sight speed. And then we have the VLK laser tuned for aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. Next is the RAL MG, or the SIG MG338. This thing is still a monster. It does have a little bit more recoil, so it is a little bit harder to control at range, but this is the build that I've been using since the get-go. The only thing that I had to change was I used to use this one right here. I used to use a suppressor on it because it because I like the extra damage range, killing people fast. I guess theoretically you really could still just do it because it does give you quite a big boost. So, but we use whatever sight you're most comfortable with, and we tune it for flinch resistance in the farthest eye position. The STIP 40 grip, which we tune for recoil steadiness and aiming idle stability. Then we have the demo narrow grip, which we tune for aiming idle stability and recoil stabilization. This is to make it feel not as slow. And then you just saw me tune this for aim idle stability and recoil smoothness. And then the Rhino barrel, which I didn't tune, but we go for recoil steadiness and damage range. And it's still a monster. It still feels incredibly good to shoot this, and it does kill extremely fast still. And they really messed up when they nerfed it, because they nerfed the damage at range and the damage range on it, but they increased the close damage. So if anyone, with this build, if anyone's caught, within, I'd say, like 35 meters or so, they're getting absolutely fried. If you're up and aimed and someone's challenging you, they're not going to survive very good. So yeah, this gun's still a monster. And then next we have the Vel 46, or the MP7A2, and this is the small map one. This is one of the ones that I do flip flop some things here. So for small map, and big map, we have the soldier grip, which we tune for aim down sight and sprint to fire to enhance those things. The demo RXT stock we tune for aim down sight and aiming idle stability to give you a little bit more consistency at range. I messing around with the aim walking speed. I really like it, so that's what I'm going to do for that. I apologize. VLK laser, tuning to enhance our sprint to fire and aim down sight speed. The Lockshot KT85 is going to negate any sort of horizontal recoil the gun has and help with the vertical just a bit, and this thing is going to fry at range. And then the FSS shark fin, as always for me, for my SMGs and my close range weapons, and we tune that for aim down sight and aim walk and movement speed. Now, if you're going to use this on the big map, you can still use this one because they did buff the damage ranges for the MP7, but it feels really good to use the Tango 28 barrel. It gives you the least amount of aim down sight penalty, and it boosts your damage range and bullet velocity quite a bit. And so that you just end up tuning for aim walk movement speed and the aim down sight speed here. And it just feels really good still. It's not as snappy. It's still pretty snappy. It definitely feels pretty good out at range. So let's get this back on right here. You go boop, and then boop. So, and then number 4 is going to be the Castout 762 or AK-103, and this is the big map version. I know that you'll see my custom, name for it says small map, but I tweaked it because I didn't have this build already, and I made stupid, so I apologize for that. This is big map. Same story with the Hemlock as with the Castout. It has a slow fire rate. It hits incredibly hard. So I don't run the 40 round mag. If you want to run the 40 round mag, just drop the stock. It's the same thing. And same thing here. Whatever optic you're most comfortable with, tuning for flinch resistance and the farthest eye position. If you're going to use the stock, it's tuned for aim down sight speed and aiming idle stability. We're using the F-Tac Ripper on this one as well for recoil stabilization and aiming idle stability. And then the ZLR Talon, this one gives it's basically the Harbinger D20, but the Russian version. It gives 3.5% to all recoil control, 30% bullet velocity, 14.4% damage range. It hurts your stuff quite a bit, but it's worth the cons that you get. And we tune it for recoil smoothness and aiming idle stability. And then what makes this good for any map? This barrel is just crazy good. It does take recoil control, and you can see that it kind of says it hurts the recoil control a little bit, but it gives you I think it's 5% recoil control, but it really boosts the damage range and boosts the bullet velocity pretty decently. So you can tune it for recoil steadiness and extra damage range. And that's my AK. And then the P90. This thing is just so good. Movement speed, it's snappy. Um, this one I built out for you guys. This is actually the same build that Who's Immortal uses, so shout out to him. This build is really, really good. I don't mind the iron sights, so personally I'd be using this build for big map. And then for small map, I drop the Corona Mini Pro, and we add the overpressured plus P rounds. These are just disgustingly good. But yeah, so the tunes are the TV Tacoma, we tune for recoil stabilization, aim down sight speed. For the Bruin Q900 grip, we tune it for aim down sight and sprint to fire. Give me 1 second, guys. I apologize here. Aim down sight and sprint to fire to even make those even better. And for the Corona Mini Pro, we tune farthest eye position and aim down sight speed. VLK laser, aim down sight, sprint to fire, same as always. Lockshot KT85 is going to nullify any sort of horizontal recoil and help with the vertical. And we tune it for recoil stabilization and gun kick control. If we have the plus P ammunition on here, we tune it for damage range and bullet velocity. Now, last but not least, we have the Scar L, or the TAC 56, and this is the iron sight build. If you do not like the iron sights, drop the rear grip and then put on whatever sight you're most comfortable with. This is my personal build that I like to use. The problem that the TAC 56 has is that after the first damage drop off, it shoots hugs and kisses. It doesn't seem like it does a lot of damage at that range, which kind of sucks. So this build is specifically meant to increase our damage ranges out as far as we can. So the FSS combat grip is fantastic. We tune for recoil steadiness and aiming idle stability. You know the deal when you put it on your sight for long range weapons. Tune for flinch resistance and the farthest eye position. Now we put the 17.5-inch Tundra barrel on here. It does not help with actual recoil control, but we tune for recoil steadiness and we increase the damage range even further. And then we have the Icarus 80, which hurts our aim down sight speed the least amount, but it gives us 14.4% damage range and 30% bullet velocity, which is really, really good. So we tune it for bullet velocity and for recoil smoothness. And then the F-Tac Ripper, recoil stabilization, aiming idle stability, and 40-round mag. You can do the 60-round mag if you feel like you're not hitting your shots, but I don't think it's necessary. And then we have the Chimera, or the AAC Honey Badger. This build is specifically meant for solos and duos. This gun kills incredibly fast. It's going to outgun most SMGs, and this build is really snappy and doesn't have a whole lot of recoil. So if you decide that you want to run the 45-round mag, go ahead and drop the underbarrel and put the 45-round mag on. I actually have the build for it. And I'll show you that here in a second. So the D37 grip helps us with recoil control, and of course I forgot to tune it, so I apologize once again. Right there, and then sprint to fire speed. Perfect, okay. Then we have the FSS Shark Fin, which we tune for aim down sight speed and aiming idle stability. We have the Polarfire S. The problem with this gun is that the bullet velocity on it is absolutely atrocious. So we put a suppressor on it to help with that bullet velocity, and especially the polar fire, given that it gives us the 30% bullet velocity. And then we have the Vorpal, which is awesome because it kind of gives us everything. We get extra damage range, we get aim down sight and movement speed, um, and it's kind of the best of all worlds. So we tune that for recoil steadiness for a little bit more you know, I'm forgetting how to word here. I apologize. Um, for a bit more consistency, that's what I'm looking for. And then aim down sight speed to make it even snappier. And then we add the laser, as always, to make it snappy. So we do the aim down sight and the sprint to fire speed on this one. Now this build is incredibly snappy and kills super, super fast. Look how snappy that is. This is an assault rifle, folks. An assault rifle with a silencer. And that's that snappy. So now we got 2 honorable mentions. So the first honorable mention, and this isn't like an actual loadout, the weapons in them are what the honorable mentions are. The Castout 74U. This gun is just as good as, or almost just as good as the Chimera. With that Chimera build, we have a decent amount of bullet velocity, so better that way. This one, we lose some bullet velocity with the barrel, um, but it feels really good. It still feels really good at mid range, and it has about the same as the other one. Um, but I play solos, so instead of the 45 round mag, we actually have the high velocity ammo on there, and we tune that for damage range and then extra bullet velocity. So this is actually my build. This is for solos, duos. Um, I've been messing around with different cast off builds because this never felt really good for me. And I finally found a build that feels really good to me. And this build, despite being really fast, has basically no recoil whatsoever. So we have the Atrazat stock, which helps with aim walking speed, sprint speed, and the aiming stability. Once again, not too big of a deal. Even though you're better with this one at mid range, it still doesn't really hurt all that much. So we tune to kind of mitigate some of that. And then we tune for aim down sight speed there. And a stock on tread 40. We actually tune this for aim down sight and gun kick control, which to help it make more snappy. And then the BR 209 barrel helps with movement speed and aim down sight speed. Um, Here's the issue: when you go to tune it for recoil steadiness, if you move it up at all, it's actually going to hurt the recoil control on, at least on the graph. I don't know. We don't have real numbers for what happens when we tune, but it actually hurts the recoil on the graph. If you look, it doesn't make it any better. So there's not really a point in tuning it, and I don't really want aim, walk, and movement speed with this one. So, of course, you're gonna be a bitch. There we go. Then we tune for aim down sight speed on that. Same thing with the laser. You know the drill. Aim down sight, sprint to fire speed, and that's that. But if you, like I said, if you want the 45 round mag, drop the high velocity ammo. And I hate myself for this one, but unfortunately, the KV Broadside is still a fucking beast. This is my personal build. I in solos, I don't use the mag. I use, where is it? I use this thing. I use the .30 for because I want the hip fire and the sprint to fire speed. But for duos, it's definitely necessary to get that other magazine. So if you're rushing in a building and you got 2 guys in a corner holding hands, you just blast both of them with this thing. So now instead of a 2-shot, it's a 3-shot, but it's still ridiculous. Yeah, so instead of killing in 350 milliseconds, it kills in like 500 milliseconds, but it's still insanely fast for, you know, 5 to 10 meters away. Oh shit, I forgot to show you the tuning. So you can't tune the dashbolt. Obviously, you can't tune the magazine. We tune for damage range and bullet velocity on the Dragon's Breath. So modified choke will make the tighter pellet spread and damage range. The range 12 barrel, recoil steadiness, and damage range. And that's all there is to that. This is a fun honorable mention. I'm going to give a shout out to Iceman Isaac for this. His is just ever so slightly different. I can't remember what he doesn't have on his. I want to say he doesn't have a muzzle on his because he uses an optic. I like the iron sights on the Lockman, all of the Lockmans. So if I ever build them for close range, I don't use an optic. I think the iron sights are really clean. So this is the SMG Lockman 762 build, and I actually set my PR with the help of this gun. It has like a 492 millisecond TTK out to about 25 meters with this, and you can still hit your shots at 25 meters, which is insane. So, and it has a he's like a 273 millisecond aim down sight speed, which is stupid fast for a battle rifle. Um, and it has like a 190 millisecond sprint to fire speed. Like that's definitely SMG territory. Like it's crazy. But here's the tunes in this. We use the S9 factory stock, which gives us sprint speed, aim walking speed, crouch movement speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of stability and recoil control, which we'll get to that later. So I tuned it for aim walking speed and aim down sight speed. Then we have the OLV laser, which we know what we're doing here, aim down sight and sprint to fire speed. Then we're going to use the Aurora barrel, and we're going to tune it for recoil steadiness for just a little bit more stability and consistency, and then we're going to tune for aim down sight speed. And then we have the SA Leveler 55, which we tune completely for recoil. So we got recoil stabilization and gun kick control on this one. And then the 30 round mag. It's really slow firing and packs such a big punch. I believe it takes, if you can mix in a headshot, it takes 5 or 6 bullets to kill. So a 30 round mag is good for all squad sizes. The next honorable mention is going to be the Icarus, and there's been some buzz around this gun, and it's well deserved. This build particularly has essentially, it has recoil. I'm not gonna lie about it. It does have recoil, but it's very easy and manageable recoil. It's essentially straight up and down. So you basically just, if you're on a controller, you pull your right thumbstick down just a bit, and if you're on mouse and keyboard, you just pull that mouse down a little bit. But we use the Socket ZX grip, and we tune for aiming idle stability and recoil steadiness. Lock grip precision, this gives you the best recoil control out of any underbarrel at 9%. For vertical and in the 8% for the rest. And we tune for better hip control because, as I've stated in previous videos, the game doesn't recognize that you're tuning for hip recoil. It just does it for all overall recoil. And then we tune slightly better aim down sight speed there. Then we have the Harbinger D20, no surprise here, increasing our damage range and bullet velocity significantly. And we tune for recoil, smoothness, and aiming idle stability. And then we have the Cool Forge barrel. Now, with this build, theoretically, you can drop this barrel because it doesn't help you with any recoil control, and you could add a stock. Like, you could add the demo precision. If I remember correctly, actually, no, this one, the Corio Precio factory stock is the best for recoil control and aiming stability, so this will help you with your long-range fights. But I like the barrel. I like to increase my damage range so I get that super fast time to kill even longer. It has like a 525 millisecond time to kill up to like 30 meters or so it's pretty nasty. And we tune it for recoil stabilization and even better damage range. And then the optic is whatever optic you're most comfortable with. As always, we tune it for flinch resistance and the furthest eye position. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thanks for tuning in and bearing with me as I fumble my speech and fuck around with shit, that you can't see because I don't have a face cam right now. But this is my top 5 loadouts and honorable mentions. And I'll be making another video here tonight, probably on the Castout 74U, and we'll probably get that out there tomorrow. So if you enjoy the content, make sure you like the video, so that way you're telling me that I did a good job, and I like head pats. So, and then share it with your friends and comment on it. Tell me what you want to see next, or if you have questions about my top 5 or anything else, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. I heart react everybody's message, so if that makes you feel good, then go ahead and leave a comment so I can give it a heart. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and then you click on that bell so you get notifications of when I post new videos or when I go live on YouTube. Unfortunately, right now, I don't go live on YouTube much unless it's just to record things long term, so that way I can edit them later, just because I don't have enough followers or subscribers on YouTube to really warrant going live. But I do go live on Twitch. I'm thinking about switching over to the Kick platform and trying to get a following there, but we shall see what happens. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.